Hello and welcome everyone to the Wednesday, May 24th edition of the SIG Contributor Experience bi-weekly meeting. I'm your host, Kaslin Fields. A reminder, we do operate under a code of conduct, which essentially says to be respectful of your fellow attendees and speakers and generally be excellent to each other. I have shared the link to the notes doc in the chat. So do please join in and add any items that you want to go over. Thank you to the folks who have already been adding their names to the attendees list. Before we kick off with our agenda, is there anyone new on the call who wants to say hello? Excuse my cat. She's new. She says hello. But if there's any new contributors on the call, we like to offer an opportunity here at the beginning of the meeting for you to unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself, or you're welcome to post in the chat. Totally optional. Leave that open for a minute there. All right, I think we're good to go then. Starting off with events. Where are we at on Contributor Summit planning for North America? When's that starting up? Anyone know?
Soon.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Very good. That's the update. Go on.
I haven't heard anything from Nigel, but it as Bob said, it should be soon.
Cool.
I've volunteered to help Nigel as semi-emeritus, semi-backup. So I'll ping him this week and find out where we're at.
I am certainly trying to keep an eye out for announcements about the opening of that issue. I know a few folks who've been interested in getting involved with that, so I'll make sure to share that with them once it's available. Any other discussion around events? There's one item I'm thinking about bringing up, but I think we'll bring it up in the comms part. Mentoring. Anyone here from mentoring want to give any updates?
I don't think they're like the two programs have spun down. I archived the two Slack channels. So there's nothing currently ongoing.
Okay. What two programs were those?
Apps and CLI. There are group mentoring cohorts for both of them.
We did get some feedback from Mache regarding what can be done better. So the summary of that is we basically need a better way to filter people in terms of who we admit. So last time it was pretty much it was almost first come first serve. We basically need to set like a higher bar above, depending on what the cohort is. So for example, if it's apps, at least like maybe knowing Golang should have been a prerequisite for a reviewer cohort, because that was something that they struggled with, even though like they had to go from teaching Golang and stuff like that.
It was the same thing in the CLI one. The big problem was most of the mentees said that they already know Go and were already familiar with parts of it already. And to be frank, they lied.
Yeah. So we were brainstorming a few ways to just basically have a better criteria. One obvious one is org member, but we know how that is. That's an obvious one. Another one is showing demonstrable contributions, like any form of contribution just to that vertical that the cohort is about. That is another one. Then like I remember like a while back, Aaron had a Python script which like suggested reviewers based on Git histories and stuff like that, but there were a few issues with that. maybe we could strip that down and have like a very basic thing, like, okay, this person who has applied has contributed at least a little bit to the Git tree of that project, and maybe they could be a valid candidate. The few ideas for brains that we were brainstorming during the summit, but definitely something to take a look at more carefully later down the line.
Yeah.
And is there like a plan for these programs? If we're thinking about ways that we can improve them, does that mean that there is another round in a vague time frame that we're working toward, or just kind of in general, someday this will happen again?
Someday in general, this will happen again. It's usually SIG or sub-project initiated. So Rob in the Gateway API was thinking of potentially doing one. There was another one that was being considered for I think it was Customize. But on very like, hey, we might want to consider doing this type thing.
Okay.
We do have docs for it in K community in the mentoring subdirectory. So we could potentially PR something there with like, make sure there is a greater scrutiny on applicants. If anyone on this call wants to do it.
Opportunity for a PR.
Yeah, I think criteria of some form for every cohort is like really important, because if a cohort happens and then the feedback is that it wasn't the best use of the maintainer's time, that's already a very big problem in the community, because that's the main reason people are hesitant to mentor folks. That is, it might not be worth their time in the long run. So if that's the feedback they get from a new mentoring structure, then like we might lose any potential SIGs that might be willing to adopt it in the future. So I think before we do any more cohorts, PRing that into the mentoring markdown, I think should be done.
All right. Any other questions, comments, discussion, suggestions there before we move on? All right. So action item there. There's an opportunity for a PR if someone wants to update the documentation. That probably won't happen. Was there anything on external mentoring programs as well before I move on from mentoring? It is almost
they're
summer.
ongoing, but we aren't really engaged with them this time around.
Okay.
I will also call out, like, in general, we're seeing less desire to engage with the external mentoring programs because frequently the mentees do not stick around. They basically do their assignment and then they leave. I've talked to contributor strategy a bit about this and trying to gather some metrics to sort of see, like, let's track the path of these people. A bunch of them have moved on from Kubernetes to like other projects in the ecosystem, but few stay here.
Makes sense. Interesting. There are benefits to that, but maybe not what we want to get out of the program. So
yeah, considering we're very, very strapped for maintainer time, it's just I see us like pulling back more so from those programs right now.
All right. With that, shall we move into contributor comms? Anyone here from that group this week?
Hang on, let me go find them.
Is it the puppy? I hope it's the puppy.
No.
Good try.
No, she's actually sacked out. Like she's done. She's in the bed I put underneath my desk because she still likes to have stuff over her head. So I put some notes in here real quick. I think Caslin, you can like add to if I forgot anything. We need some Zapier connections created to the backend services that are going to be used, specifically Drive, Zoom, and then
I thought those were already set up.
are they? Last I checked, they were not. Let me double check. Anyways, if they are, great. But there's the 3 workflows we're trying to get, going right now. We need some role books updated for shadow roles and like creating a ladder of, if you're looking to become a whatever in ContribEx, here's, how to get there through this group kind of thing. There's an idea floating around about doing Twitter spaces, since we do have a Twitter account. And then this week's meeting is virtual and Slack.
Yeah, I wanted to talk more about the shadowing in the Twitter spaces. Every now and then I like to bring up the fact that we have shadow roles open in our meetings. And I realized after doing that this week and talking with many of our student attendees about it, that folks don't know what shadow means. I probably should have clicked earlier with all of the problems that we've had with it with Contributor Summit and everything. But a lot of the folks think that shadow means an opportunity just for them to get mentored and do not get the part where you're expected to take over the lead role.
Yeah.
So we're going to be updating our documentation to say everywhere shadow means you are going to take over a lead role.
Right.
And here are the criteria for what you would need to have already in order to work toward
said thing.
Yeah.
Whatever
said thing.
Yeah.
Because we have like requirements for the lead, which I mean kind of implies it with shadow becoming part of the lead. But I think it would help to add a little bit more clarity of like, here are the things you should already have. These are the things you're probably going to learn as you're shadowing. Not a bad thing to document. So I'll probably be working with our leads to try and get that additional detail added to each role book. And then we're going to try to make the terminology of shadow very clear throughout our documentation. Something that we might want to consider for like Contributor Summit and other things as well. And if there are no comments on that, then Twitter Spaces, like Chris said, someone mentioned maybe we should hold a Twitter space while we were joking around talking about something. We were like, wait a second, we do have a Twitter account and we've never considered holding Twitter spaces. Maybe that is something we should think about.
Like no thought has gone into that whatsoever.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. If anyone has ideas about ways that they would like to see Twitter spaces used in our community, please let us know. Any discussion on those? All right.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Sounds like we'll continue thinking about those things.
Yes.
So moving on, contributor documentation.
No updates here.
All right. We still need to sync with Craig Peters about the status of.
I bothered about it. I bothered him about it last week in the GitHub Maintainer Summit.
Oh, cool.
Sounds good.
So
any progress?
It's TLDR as we were going to connect later and get it sorted out.
Okay, cool. Let us know if you need any help.
How much time and how many contributors does it take to make a virtual contributor guide?
The guide's done. It's just
it's the code space.
The code
part.
space.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it. That's important. It's important with the way that we decided to design that. Anyway, sounds good. And then maybe we'll work on the contributor site more at the next contributor summit. That'd be another fun session. Do more on that.
It would be.
Yeah. We should keep that in mind.
Mhm.
So next item, moderation in media. Nigel. Anyone else want to talk about that? I mean, Chris already kind of talked about it a little bit with the Zapier stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to log into it, everything right now. So
I don't think there's any other updates right now.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Sounds good. GitHub management. Bob.
So it'll probably be either later this week or sometime next week. But there's going to be some comms going out because we're seeing an increased use of GitHub Actions in the project.
Oh, okay.
Which is, it isn't necessarily bad. It's largely used for simple things, which, is fine. That's like, even in the contributor site, repo, we use it to essentially run a cron job, just like, hey, update the site every 12 hours. The problem is that a lot of us don't know GitHub Actions well. And there are some very large and dangerous foot guns.
Yes. Big ones.
Foot guns. All right.
Yep.
Kablooey.
I won't go into detail, but this has been an issue. So we are planning on at least on some specific guidance about it sometime soon. I'm also waiting to hear back from GitHub on a few things.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was some kind of setting for like not enabling or disabling, but controlling how much could be done with a GitHub action, maybe.
That is literally something I brought up with them. It's just like, I want to limit these things from being used.
Right. Like, yeah, it should be like crons and very simple things.
Yeah, but they do not have any sort of way of doing that.
That's kind of sad. Darn.
Yeah, I just wanted to drop that FYI.
Yeah, let us know. I think we all are in agreement. We need to keep the like everything involved with actions in mind when it comes to the greater community.
No.
Relying too heavily on those will be disastrous.
Our bias, we still really prefer people to use Prow because we put a lot more, like the way secrets are accessed and things like that are done in a, not necessarily a much more secure way, but a way that makes it like harder to discover a lot of it, like for a foot gun to happen.
Yeah.
It has had a lot of time to mature for our use cases.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Looks like we're in for a fun open mic discussion. Chris, did you want to add something more to that?
Yes, I just checked the Zapier account. We're not good, Bob. Sorry, I looked at the wrong thing.
No worries. I will log into the account, at least make a couple connections later.
Cool. YouTube's good. It's Drive, Zoom, GitHub.
No,
maybe I can add GitHub. I'm not sure. I haven't tried.
GitHub will be interesting.
Yeah, it's for contributor tweets. So
I wouldn't bother with that one right now because that one.
No, it's not a priority. Trust me. Like the other ones are.
Yeah. I added a needs work in parens next to the GitHub to add Kate's contributors. We had a lot of discussion about that workflow in our group. Definitely still not sorted out yet. Anyway. Open mic discussion time. First item, migration to managed groups for ContribEx.
So I have set up managed groups under Kubernetes.io for ContribEx. The leads one has already been migrated and all the permissions have been set up around it. The main list is just going to require more coordination because it's, dropping a message to the current list saying like, this is going to change on this date. We make the change, we import the users and basically lock the current list. we also have to update the various places in the SIGs.yaml. But that is something we want to get going on and sort of create a playbook on, just because we're having so many more other SIGs having problems with the just general Google groups.
Makes sense. It's a thing that's been happening for a while. Good to see that moving. And it sounds like y'all are also documenting as you go along for all of the other groups that are going to need to do this, right? So documentation will also be forthcoming, I imagine, after this, because I imagine you're using this as a basis for a lot of the documentation.
Yep. Right now, it's just mostly dropping notes in private chat, like I had to do XYZ, but that will be turned into something later.
Makes sense. All right. Shall we move on to the spicy discussion? Chat GPT and issues in PRs.
Yep.
Oh, God.
So we are seeing, and we are not the only project seeing an increase in spam of people using, Copilot, Chat GPT, whatever, to generate frivolous comments and PRs. There isn't a great way to detect this stuff yet.
Lines of code.
No, like
I mean, you can't even check for that.
There's some like little key indicators that kind of pop up that like honestly takes like a human to really take a look at and sort of see like, good example. They'll add a PR that adds a function that doesn't have any test cases, or they will, that function, like even though they add that function, it's not actually implemented in any other places. Other thing, like sort of common patterns that I have personally seen have been, they'll have a very, very verbose, like honestly, I can tell what Chat GPT writes these days. I can tell it becomes easier to just tell what it's written. And so like they tend to have a very verbose response in an issue. But then when dealing with responses on the, PR review or responding to an issue, it tends to like, be a very different style or cadence. And again, there's just like little indicators like that pop up. As I said, we are not the only project facing this. It's happening.
No, it's happening everywhere.
It's mostly in the bigger projects, but like Rust has seen it, Electron has seen it. I think VS Code, like most of the larger projects have seen it, and no one has a good solution yet. So kind of, brainstorming potential ideas, but like really it's just kind of like, keep something in the back of your head for now. Like if something, if you randomly have an idea of potentially how to deal with this in the shower, like jot it down and please mention it, because frankly, the problem is only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Are these PRs primarily being submitted by people who are trying to get PRs into the project, or is it bots?
Get people PRs into the project, not bots.
Okay.
No, GitHub actually does a good job of bot detection.
Mostly like that, the bot detection stuff comes from people reporting it. So it still requires essentially a human to submit things for them to look at it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Oh, has anyone actually asked GPT how to deal with Chat GPT?
I did, as a joke in a discussion on this.
I'm glad you did that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you for doing that. Thank you.
Also, for those that might have missed my April Fool's thing, I opened like a 40-page KEP written by Chat GPT about Kubernetes 2.0.
Beautiful.
You need to give us a link to that, because that's brilliant.
One sec. It was about rewriting Kubernetes in Bash for Kubernetes 2.0.
Oh my God, that is amazing. What I have found is that you can actually get it to make up fake quotes that are very believable.
That is what it's good at, making
Yeah.
things that look believable, look like they would be an answer to your question.
Mhm.
But could be giving you very wrong facts.
Yes, exactly.
It's not made to give you the right facts. It's made to give you an answer that looks like an answer.
Yes. The big problem with LLMs.
Indeed. Which people don't understand.
Possible to use a tool like GPT-0 or GPT output
Yeah.
detector.
I was about to
something like that.
say there are some safety tools, right? I feel like this is the perfect use case for them, Chad. Good point.
I know that for our last DevOps Days conference, they used this tool to for the CFPs to detect if people were using ChatGPT. So
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I need
Wow,
to.
I didn't think about that either.
Oh my God. Wow.
I just did a
I-
CFP.
I need to think about because I'm
Oh,
I'm
God.
reviewing a bunch soon.
Oh boy.
I am actually going to message the Elf event staff about that one.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that up.
mhm.
Ideas about using that for this issue, though, of people filing PRs.
The one
Have we
thing that
looked
might
into
be
that yet?
I haven't looked into it to PRs. The one problem is just like that might detect the issue comment stuff. The code segment,
code,
the code
yeah.
will be the harder one.
Is this code like you have to check it for like actual usage and things like that, right? Like, eesh. That's a tough one. I did just ask it. I got a nice response. I'll share somehow.
That only scratches the surface of
I know.
potential license violations.
Don't.
Yeah,
I just watched Bob's face melt at that statement.
dark subject.
I have had many conversations with lawyers and no resolution yet.
Shocking. This is my shocked and surprised face. Can you see it? Looks just like my normal face.
So we need a chat GPT detector and prowl somehow.
Do we have a good way to reverse engineer what question would be asked to ChatGPT to get elicit a particular response?
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey ChatGPT, what would someone ask to get the following response?
Well, so for at least the code generation ones, like sometimes if like some of the ones that I have seen where people are generating code, they literally will take the GitHub like issue title or of like the the issue, or take a description from the issue and literally punch it into the thing and basically take the generated code from that and paste it in. But that's not going to be a consistent thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it for me. But
It was spicy. I like it. I mean, I don't like it.
no.
and other projects and GitHub are thinking about this problem too. So if one of the collective people think of something, it will definitely get get shared out.
Yeah.
I think that's
All
it.
right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We need to get
Sorry, I was
ChatGPT
taking-
itself, whenever it generates code, to submit an identifying block of code in the middle, so that when they cut and paste, we can just search for that one little tagline.
Right.
Honestly, not a
It's
bad
really
idea.
It's tough.
Legally speaking, like a AI watermark
Yeah.
wouldn't be a bad idea.
And like, I think that was discussed in a few different models. Like they have watermarks or something to that effect now.
It's a big complicated mess, and
Yeah, it's
yeah.
gnarly.
If
Such
only
is the
there
world we
was
live in.
Yep.
an ethical AI team backing some things that could.
Yeah.
Who needs those? I'm joking. Please do not take that seriously. Anyway, yes. Think we're probably good on our discussion for today. So I'll go ahead and stop our recording. Folks are welcome to hang out. Bye, YouTube.